Hey everyone, it's the Koopa Man. Anyone who hangs out with me regularly knows I give the YouTuber Razorfist a lot of guff for his media-related hot takes. That said, he is in my special thanks section, despite never personally interacting with him. That is because, despite his hot takes, he is one of the YouTubers who inspires me the most. The man says what he thinks without restraint, and it isn't hampered down by being the metal guy, the politics guy, or the pulp guy. Anyway, there is one take of his that I believe not only is not hot, but is fairly based and on point. That is the gaming industry's obsession with open world and how it's kind of ruining everything. And to take inspiration from Razorfist, there's something I feel I must share with you. I did not care for Breath of the Wild.
What?
Did not care for Breath of the Wild.
How can you even say that?
I didn't like it.
Koopa is so good. It's like the perfect game.
That's what everyone says whenever they say...
Daruk's protection, Rivali's scale. I mean, Mifa's grace!
Fine characters. Did not like the game.
Well, that's incredibly vague, Koopa. Care to explain why?
I couldn't get into it.
Explain yourself. What didn't you like about it?
It's tedious and empty, Swords.
What's that even mean?
It's tedious and empty.
Because it's a non-linear game. It's not holding your hand.
It takes like forever getting in. You spend like 3 hours on the plateau. You know, I can't even get through it. I haven't beat the game.
You never beat the game?
How can you say you don't like it? You haven't even given it a chance.
I agree with Paladin. It's not really fair.
I tried on like 3 separate occasions to get through it, and I get to the part where you're in the Zora village and they're standing around in the rain.
Yeah, it's a great part. I love that part.
I have no idea what you're supposed to do. The enemies are like bosses. It's where I lose interest.
You're not supposed to fight them.
The enemies you're encountering are supposed to be fought later. Non-linearity is something you would not understand.
I like Ocarina of Time. That is my answer to that statement.
Exactly.
Well, there you go.
Whatever.
Yeah, I like that game too.
Well, there goes my tabletop night. They're never gonna let me live that down. But in all seriousness, folks, it's not just Zelda. There are a number of games that have been going for non-linear open world, and a lot of the time it's to the detriment of the game. Well, want an example that isn't a sacred cow? How about Fallout 76? When that game was announced, it was billed as an open world with many multiplayer servers and a non-linear story of the first group of Vault Dwellers emerging into the wasteland. So what happened? Well, Todd Howard happened. That's what happened. What was pitched as a wonderful Fallout-styled romp with your friends was, in actuality, a directionless open mess. There weren't even any non-enemy NPCs. And this was noticed by a few people who did buy the game, who mostly just threw their hands in the air and their loot on the ground and gave up. Similarly, there was the initial launch of No Man's Sky.
Welcome to Jurassic Park.
A procedurally generated universe exploration game with the only objection is to get to the center. It was as bad as it sounds. Granted, they added a number of features, bug fixes, and quests to the game to flesh out beyond being, well, an incomplete mess. Even Sonic and Pokemon have fallen for the siren's call of non-linear open world, both of which are announcing their latest games in this format. It could be good, but there's a bit of both series' identities being lost in trying to follow the leader. The problems come when it becomes apparent that these open worlds are getting bigger and bigger, but the amount of content stays the same or gets less over time. They advertise, hey, look at that mountain in the background, you can go climb it, and yet do not give us any incentive to climb it other than being there. Like, what's the point? Is the plot up there? No? It reminds me of a criticism C.S. Lewis had about his contemporary and friend J.R.R. Tolkien, and how Tolkien would describe the description and history and names of every blade of grass and tree. Surely this is exaggeration, but you got games now that are becoming very much like that. And the reasoning why you shouldn't do that is because, well, it should just be window dressing, an accompaniment to the greater story the game is trying to tell. Freedom is not a license for chaos. It is well and good to give the player freedom, but video games are just that. Games, a competitive form of player sport which is played according to rules and decided by skill. Bringing it back to Breath of the Wild, if you can largely achieve the same goal, defeating Calamity Ganon and saving Hyrule by going straight to the castle and killing him, Why should you even bother doing anything but that? If the win condition is to defeat Ganon, is that not just as valid? And what of No Man's Sky and Fallout 76, which had seemingly no end goal? Then we come to Mario Odyssey. Now, while not a single map open world, more of an open zone experience, don't worry, we'll get back to Sonic. Mario Odyssey could have been the best set of sandboxes in gaming history, if they didn't stuff it with so many damn moons. Yeah, that's another problem with these kinds of games. Overly abundant collectibles with no real purpose other than slapping yourself on the back and saying, you did it. Except sometimes, and yes, Breath of the Wild again, said collectibles are made of literal Korok poop and you wasted 40 hours of your life only to be told it was Korok poop and that's your only prize. Contrast that with the gold sculptulas from Ocarina of Time. Sure, infinite rupees is kind of pointless, but yeah, at least you helped save that cursed family. Your reward is a satisfaction for your efforts. The Korok Seeds quest is just a slap in the face. I mean, with the gold sculptulas, you help the family because it's the right thing to do. You are the hero after all, but why is Link going around collecting poop long after it's given him his last inventory slot? This is one of my primary fears for Sonic Frontiers. The initial IGN footage showed the game to be a wide-open sandbox game with not much in it. Though granted, trusting IGN to show Sonic in a positive light is like trusting Movie Bob with the keys to Willy Wonka's factory. After the initial reveal, the team clarified this was to be an open zone game like Mario Odyssey, and more footage from Gamescom, including a new trailer, alleviated some of those worries. However, there's still a possibility the gameplay will involve a lot of grinding and collectathoning, and the franchise itself will lose its heart and soul, which up to this point was gotta go fast. It's at a point where some devs are trying to sell these quote unique and original unquote open world freedom experiences and pretending they're the first and most important people on the planet through history to make this sort of game. Long after many, many more and much better companies have made the exact same thing. Like, whatever the hell it is that opened at Gamescom this year, I don't even remember it. I wrote this part literally after Gamescom opening night live, and I don't even remember what it was called. Then there's the recently released reboot of Saints Row, which is fittingly called by fans Saints Woke. It seems, according to critics, and these are usually mostly from the non-gamer, perpetually offended journalists this game was made for, that having a wide open and empty world with nothing to do and no real point was one of the constant criticisms. Didn't they understand that the game was supposed to be 10 out of 10 just for the message? See, this open world thing has gotten so bad it's broken the NPC coding of lefties. Eventually, they're gonna come to a point where gamers realize that what they thought was freedom and joy was nothing more than anarchy and sloth. If given the incentive, devs will become lazier and lazier and put out games that are as meaningless as a melon. Undisciplined, unkempt, and unaccountable. Insignificant, indeterminate, and inadvertent. Out of shape, out of order, out of place, and out of luck.
It's an older code, sir, but it checks out.
Anyway, let's hope that after that's said and done, let's hope for something better to come along. But that's my thoughts. It's been the Koopa Man. Game on.